You know, in spite of the fact that I'm a fat bastard, I do try to exercise every night at 10 p.m., watch some shit with my brother on either Netflix or Crunchyroll or whatever. And, in spite of how critical I can be of shit sometimes, I don't have very high standards for storytelling. My standards are basically, have characters with consistent character and motivations. Have story elements that make sense in universe with the universe's rules. And I didn't have a third one until I watched the original Hellsing anime, and then I had to add, make sure cause and effect is a thing. You know, just fucking make sure that actions have consequences on any level. If you could just do that, no matter how small the level, if you could make sure actions have consequences somewhere. Hellsing. I was so pissed, and am still so pissed at the original Hellsing anime for thinking it's so intelligent, for having such a slow, boring pace in trying to build foreshadowing for events that never occur, because the anime ends on a cliffhanger, trying to build up this big conspiracy with no answers, abruptly killing off characters for no discernible reason other than maybe you forgot to write something and didn't want to have to deal with it. Like at one point in the original Hellsing anime, there's this detective character who seems genuinely important because the detective's going to tell one of the main characters about what happened to their father. And then the detective is killed in a car bombing. The whole scene lasts about 3 seconds. The main character screams the detective's name, and you never hear about it again. They never explain why there was a car bombing, who would want to bomb his car, why anyone would care about that shit. It's just there to add another question that needs answered that will never get answered. Like, the anime delights in bringing up hundreds of really important questions that will never ever be answered, ever. And not only is that really rude and a complete waste of my time, because it ended on a cliffhanger, there were no answers, and even if there were answers, they would probably be really fucking stupid, judging by the rest of the show. But not only was that entire anime a complete waste of my time and an insult to my intelligence for thinking about it, but it completely goes against the original Hellsing. The original Hellsing is not intelligent. It doesn't try to be intelligent. Hellsing and Hellsing Ultimate, which is the animated adaptation of the Hellsing manga, they're not intelligent media. They're not trying to be smart. They don't want to be smart. But they're good to watch because the characters have consistent motivations, the questions that the show brings up have answers, and it's just fucking competent. It's just competent. Perhaps the weirdest thing about the original shitty Hellsing anime is that there's this one out-of-place episode right in the middle of the series, where one of the writers clearly had a grudge against people who watch snuff films on the internet, because there's a whole episode about internet snuff films, and how if you watch internet snuff films you're worse than an actual murderer, and you deserve to have the blood drained out of you by a vampire and suffer a slow, painful death. It's like very clear that one of the writers was on a crusade. And for some reason they specifically chose to shove their crusade in the middle of the original Hellsing anime, and it contradicts with several things we've seen in the anime previously. Like, we've seen that actual real murderers, the people who kill other people, don't get killed. They get thrown in jail. But God forbid you film someone getting murdered, then you get killed. That's just going too far, man. Like, that's bad even in really well-written shows, when a writer clearly has a personal vendetta against some certain idea, and bends the show's characters and rules to fit with what they're trying to convey, because they're ideologically motivated. Even some really great shows have that issue, like Young Justice. But in those shows, they at least try to keep with the general idea of what the show's about. In Hellsing, they don't even stick with the general idea behind the original Hellsing anime, which is to create a sort of detective, noir-ish fuckfest, where it asks a bunch of questions that will never be answered to build intrigue. But that episode's just straight up about snuff films. It has nothing to do with the Hellsing universe, nothing to do with Hellsing's unique setting. It just doesn't fucking matter. You could fit any characters into that episode, because that episode's not about Hellsing, it's about the writer being super pissed off at people who record murder and then upload the murder to the internet, and also the people who watch said murder. You're not fucking clever, asshole. Humans aren't that complex. I can see you're just trying to cram your ideological beliefs into this show where it doesn't go. Alucard in particular has zero reason to give a fuck about your weird snuff film agenda, but you didn't really care about that, did you? You didn't think about how the characters would react. Just thought about how you could use the characters to tell your shitty story, and you just wanted them to act however they needed to act to get that done. Which reminds me, lately while exercising, I've been watching this... Well, first of all, for context, you know who Man of Action is? It's a group of people that have been behind some pretty good shows that generally received incredibly positive critical acclaim, like Ben 10 and Generator Rex, and they also were behind Ultimate Spider-Man, and people didn't seem to like that one too much, but I loved it. And I saw on Netflix Zack Storm, which was also produced by Man of Action, apparently, so it even says written by Man of Action, and the executive producers are Man of Action, so of course I jumped the fuck on that, and it's fucking terrible. I feel like it was procedurally generated by a robot that looked at like every shitty Saturday morning cartoon cliche and smashed it all together. Because it's just fucking trash. The characters have absolutely no personality, which means that they just act however the story needs them to act to get things done. The relationship between the characters is incredibly vaguely defined and seems to change frequently. Like, sometimes they're best friends, sometimes they're assholes to each other, for no apparent reason. And also, there were undefined time skips in each episode. In the first two episodes, which establish the main cast, you're given the basic story. They need to go open the seven keys. Fuck me. They need to go open the 7 keyholes of the 7 seas using the Keyblade that the main character is wielding, and after they go open all 7 doors, they can return home because they're trapped in the Bermuda Triangle. But you're given no reason to care about these people because they don't have any backstory, you don't know what their home was like, you don't know what their motivations are besides wanting to get home, and after those first 2 episodes, they don't even seem to fucking care about getting home. In the first 2 episodes, it's established that Zack only wants to get home, to the point that he considered joining up with the bad guy very briefly so that way he could go home. But then episode 3 rolls around, and it's after an undefined time skip where the characters seem to have changed and grown together more, and some characters were introduced in some sort of weird time span we didn't see, and the characters act like they know these people even though we've never seen them, and Zack doesn't seem to care about going home anymore. He cares about plundering treasure and shit. And you wonder, wait, where did the basic story go? You know that shit about them opening the 7 keyholes so that way they can go home? And it's not there anymore. It's just gone. It turns into a Monster of the Week thing. And I mean, the characters are even lacking the basic defining traits that the most shitty cartoons have. There's this wannabe Viking with an admittedly cool visual design called Krogar, and he doesn't seem to have any kind of character. He talks in a funny accent, but he's not stereotypically stupid, or stereotypically hungry, or anything, like any other meathead character in any media. And it's not replaced with something better. It's just not replaced at all. He just doesn't have a character. Sometimes he says he likes to hit things, but that doesn't even seem all that important to his character, because he only hits things when the story needs him to. He has no conviction, no drive, no reason to do anything. He has no reason to be there. Then there's Cece, which is this Atlantean princess. We never learn what that's about, or why she was with Krogar when the main characters first found them. And her personality, like, flips back and forth all the time. She can't seem to decide whether she fucking trusts Zack or not. Because in the first 2 episodes, she didn't trust Zack at all. She thought Zack was worthless and wasn't worthy of being captain, which was fucking understandable given the events of the first 2 episodes. And then in episode 3, she says, and I quote, "I would follow Zack anywhere." What the fuck happened during that time skip? And then in episode 4, she's kind of a bitch again. This isn't done, like, intentionally, as far as I know. The writer just seems to think that you can make your characters do whatever you want them to do, as long as it moves you to the next plot point. The show even betrays very clearly defined rules that it set up itself. Like, there's a ghost character that farts a lot named Clovis, and Clovis is tied to the main character's ship. Can't leave the ship. That's it. That's explained very clearly in the second episode. Guess what Clovis does in episode 3? Fucking leaves the ship. He leaves the ship. And then in episode 4, he goes back to being tied to the ship again. What the fuck? I can't fathom how someone was paid to write Zack Storm. And I tried to look up people talking about Zack Storm on the internet, but thankfully no one seems to know it exists, really. Which is good, because it's a piece of shit. But the few people that do know it exists, they seem to, actually like the show. Which makes me wonder how their standards are lower than mine. Like, if I sat down and talked to them, I have to be curious. If I asked what they like about the characters, what they would say. Because the characters don't have any personalities. And whenever you think a personality is being established, it gets the fuck swapped out because the plot needs to go somewhere and they need to swap out the personality to make the plot go there. Like, I seriously didn't fucking believe you could write this badly. I didn't know you could fucking do it. Is this just fucking like what most TV is like? Is just how most TV goes? Should I just stop trying to consume passive media entirely? Is most of it like this? What was a Man of Action fucking on? And Zack Storm has the fucking audacity to have 2 seasons. A second season was greenlit. I don't know who greenlit it or why. It's just bad on every fucking conceivable level, and I can't get the goddamn theme song out of my head. At least things in Zack Storm have a resolution, unlike in Hellsing. But the character writing in Zack Storm is somehow worse than in the original Hellsing anime, and that's fucking impressive. I'm not totally fucking convinced that Zack Storm is real. I think it may be fake. I think it may have been made specifically to fuck with me and my brother. I don't like disliking things. It's not something I actively try to do. Like I said, my standards aren't that high. Why would I want a show to be bad? Why would I want a game to be bad? I don't. This is just a desperate cry for help. Just when you're writing anything, keep in mind the character that's saying the words, what their motivations are, and what they're hoping to accomplish with that sentence they just said. Even with the worst shit, I can look at it, and go like, there was an idea here. And I fucking like being able to do that. I like that about me. I like being able to look at the worst shit and going, there was an idea here. I can see what they were trying to do, and I can see why they released this like this. I can see why someone would want this. Why someone would want this made. Why someone would want someone else to see or play this. I like being able to do that. Even with Forbidden Memories, which is a god-awful piece of shit, I can see on some level why they designed it like it hated the player. I can see there being some rationalization for that. An incredibly detached, fucking crazy motivation by someone who probably shouldn't be allowed near other people until they sort that shit out, but I can see there being a rationalization for that. I can see there being an idea there. What was the idea behind Zack Storm, though? Were they just like, let's make Ben 10 again, but fucking worse? Is this real? Is what I'm doing right now real? Am I real? Where the fuck am